Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name is Ben Warner, and I'm joined by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern, just to follow up on Apple's recent announcements at WWDC. It's more of the same progressing along. At this point, everything's just evolutionary. I would think there's the Apple pundits that are going around saying, they've done this and they've done that, and it's going to push the iPad here, and we've got the iMac Pro and all this stuff. I did welcome the announcements that they did make. I actually think it's more consistent than what it was in, say, the past year. And I'll get to a bit later in the moment. It actually affected my purchasing decisions that we'd been recently talking about, because the numbers crunched somewhat differently after the new models were released. So
the abacus out.
Hey, it's all about the numbers in the end. But just in having a look at what they released, can we maybe just first touch on the iMac Pro, which I think is a bit of an odd beast of a computer. Now it obviously looks amazing, but I thought Pros were after modularity and the ability to plug and play stuff as to go along with whatever it is that they're doing. So the iMac is a all-in-one, so it's not possible to do that. Am I missing something there?
No, it's starting to look a lot like the 1990s at Apple's again. Lots of products, none of them quite doing what you'd really want them to do. And I guess if you don't have the trash can / donut ready to roll, you just jam what you can inside a slimline Mac and call it a Pro.
I mean, to play devil's advocate on this one, the iMac Pro to me seems like a better option than the Mac Pro, because at least you're getting a 5K screen, a spectacular 5K screen along with your computer. And it sounds like it's going to be super powerful with the Xeon chips and whatever else they're going to put in it. And maybe there is a segment of the market that could do with just that, and they don't need the modularity or whatever. But I still find it feels like they needed to do something, and they didn't have, say, the Mac Pro replacement ready to go, and this is the best they could do within the time frame that they had.
Yeah, look, I completely agree. I think that's my point, and I just wonder, how has Apple ended up here? They're really starting to smudge the clarity around their models. And you've now got a 9.5-inch iPad Pro and what is the other one, 12.5-inch, and it's just like there's now lots of models. No one really knows what any of the models do or why you'd have one model over another. So they're still good products. They're still great products, in fact. But I just feel that I've seen this once before.
I think
Steve Jobs isn't coming back this time.
Yeah, that's right. I think the iPad's actually a good case study in this. I think they did sharpen the lineup a bit compared to what it was before, and unifying some of the features. But I still take the point that they still haven't pushed it towards that sort of nexus point where they keep saying that it's the replacement for your laptop. It just isn't. And even with the announcements they made around iOS 11 having, an OS 10 type dock, proper drag and drop, and a lot of multitasking features that you would need to be able to do if it was going to replace your laptop, it's still not there yet. And how much longer is it going to take for them to get this to happen? It would seem that the iPad is missing some sort of pointing device, the mouse, in other words, which is what is, the mouse and the keyboard, as old as they are, still trump everything in terms of, that productivity side of things, and they just still haven't addressed it with the iPads. I don't think. It seems like it's going to take another year and another year of just incremental updates.
And I think that they're really sort of losing ground. I mean, they're allowing Microsoft to sell the Surface for $4,000. We haven't had laptops that expensive for 10 years. And, and meanwhile, HP, I probably wouldn't own one myself, but they've got a tablet now, kind of laptop thingy, a bit like a Surface, a bit like an iPad. It's actually doing quite well. I work with someone who uses one, and as I say, I wouldn't have one, but they seem quite happy with it. And I wouldn't imagine them using an iPad. In fact, I see less and less people bringing iPads to meetings now.
Well, the PC alternatives are actually turning out to be really good these days,
That's right.
and not just from a functionality point of view. They're actually making them well designed as well.
That's right. Yeah, but not $4,000 worth well designed.
No, absolutely not. I should qualify this now. I did pick up a 10.5-inch iPad Pro. I figured, but I figured that I was upgrading from a 4-year-old iPad that was starting to get a bit clunky. And yeah, the technological parts of it are impressive, and the big takeaway from it is that they made a screen that could refresh up to 120 hertz, which basically just means that it actually doesn't. You know how your eye can just barely notice, or you just get that sense on any sort of normal screen. You get that lag or that latency. This is the first time you pick this thing up. There's no latency. When you're and it makes a big difference, and it's been described as something akin to like when you move to a retina screen from a non-retina screen. When you go back to one that doesn't have that 120 hertz refresh rate, you do notice a huge difference in what you're looking at. For me, obviously, it's going to be still the satellite device that does a lot of consuming. The screen is really incredible for it, but I think I'll be able to start using it for a lot of distraction-free writing, which is what I'm kind of keen for. I actually think that there might be a better place to do that than a laptop, because you don't get distracted as much, because you can basically blow away all the UI and just have the cursor and type, with a keyboard, Bluetooth keyboard or something like that. So yes, I couldn't help myself there. I had to sort of dive in. I try to judge where how like you try and judge which is the best model really to go for at any given point. I'm not one of those people that buys one every year because I've got money to burn or anything like that. But if it's a bit like I waited until the 3rd gen iPad before I got an iPad. I didn't get another one till an iPad mini came out 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was. And now it's that much time's elapsed again. And so now I've gone to that next one. So it's turned out to be all right. I'm interested to see how the next iOS works on it with all those multitasking features and all that. But I still have to push back on anyone that says that it's a productivity device that can replace your laptop. Sorry, it's not that. Even I know that, and I've spent all the money buying it. So, but it's proved to be interesting. I also just wanted to mention. So I've gone with the iMac and MacBook combo again. I'm not doing the laptop and screen thing, and the interesting thing was that out of when they made the announcements, it turned out from a number crunching perspective that buying an iMac, even a 27-incher, with a laptop, a 13-inch laptop, was cheaper than getting the fully spec'd 15-inch MacBook Pro with a screen.
Wow.
So I figured, well, if I'm going to spend that money, and I'm not buying the laptop now because I'm getting the iMac because this laptop's just fine, the one I'm using now. So I'll be saving even more money compared to what I was going to be spending anyway. It just amazed me. So for that price, I'm getting 2 computers instead of just the one that I was going to use. And on top of that, the iMac comes with all the ports.
Yeah,
and this is everything we've been talking about. Like I find it amazing how all this works. Like 2 weeks ago, or before the keynote, I wouldn't have bought the old iMac, but since they they went with they beefed it up a bit, and they've kept all the ports and all of that, and it can wirelessly interact with the laptop I've got now. It's happy days. Just go with that again.
Well, but you see, this is what I mean. Like the the reasons for purchasing Apple products is no longer clear and distinct, and that was
Mm,
also part of their design. And I find it interesting that the way Apple wants you to work, which is a laptop with a big screen, they're not, obviously, for whatever reason, they're not encouraging that, and they're actually encouraging, a push for the old iMac.
mm.
But I don't know. I don't understand Apple's product lists anymore.
I mean, I know that this suited me from a number crunching perspective. I mean, there might be other people that might go with the laptop and screen alternative, but it seems to me if you're going for that big 15-incher with a screen, you basically need to be making money with your with that
Well,
setup.
let me put this to you then, Ben. If you're going to buy a laptop with no ports and no touch screen, what are you buying? A tablet with a keyboard? Why? And if we know what that affects the functionality. If you want to use it professionally for editing or creativity, with those lack of ports, unless you've got a bag of dongles, so why then wouldn't you just go an iPad Pro?
Well, yeah, and I've got an iPad Pro now, so it may be that I might not replace this laptop when I'm done with it.
Well, that would be the way. When we spoke about the laptop a few weeks ago, without those ports, it loses functionality, especially from a creative perspective, and maybe that's what they want. But I don't know what they want.
Yeah, it's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to tell. They have such a push towards mobile computing, but it seems like they're wishing everyone to go to the iPad, but they just haven't provided that compelling reason to do so. And I just don't know. I mean, younger generations are obviously coming up expecting touchscreens now, so the Mac is going to really seriously fall behind. Well, I don't even understand why they just can't put a touchscreen in it. They don't have to re-architect the whole operating system or anything. They can just chuck the touchscreen in, and if you can still use it with the mouse and keyboard, and then if it turns out that you need to touch something, you can.
Well, look, the way they're headed, if you were to ask me, not that I'd have a use for it, but really their best device is going to end up the iPhone Plus.
Without any without any ports.
Without any ports, with a basic editing app and some I don't know, creative apps on there, and maybe that's all we really want.
Yeah. Just on one final thing I wanted to touch on, which I'm not going to be obviously working on with these new toys that I've bought here, but the VR and parts of the and AR parts of the keynote were quite interesting. For nothing else, that they actually introduced a way of interacting that I think was unique for them, in the sense that you could use the devices that we currently have, like iPads and iPhones, to augment reality. So you point the camera with your iPhone at something, and then you'll see something on the screen that's augmented. That is something that could potentially be more practical in terms of its rollout and execution compared to HoloLens and all the other thing like Google Glass back in the day, even though they're not onto that anymore. You don't have to wear this. You just have to pick the device up and point it at something. And now all of a sudden, people questioning, why is there a 12 megapixel camera in an iPad? Maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's not so you can stand there like an idiot taking a photo. That's starting to make sense, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think cameras now are going to play very different roles, as you've just said. So I think the whole idea, and maybe Apple really are just so far ahead of us, and they know that the tablet is the way forward for a proper virtual experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
See.
All right. Well, the only last thing I wanted to mention is they demonstrated the new Apple file system, which looked really impressive. Instantaneous copying and what else. So I'll look forward to seeing that in action when it's finally there. But oh well, it's we got to cover it. But I think we're well and truly past the days of the Steve Jobs wow factor on screen.
Well, it's at some stage they'll have to sharpen up again.
Yeah,
Look
absolutely.
at this, I'm having my own BBC moment.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hopefully, it'll go viral. All right, we might wrap it up there. So don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there, and you can subscribe to all our content. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.